emerge from coronavirus, we need to work hard to make our towns a safe place to visit. We need to get them buzzing with activity again. That's why today I've been pleased to visit West Bridgeford and hear from shoppers and retailers their ideas how to make our towns safer. Their views have been crucial as I work to create my police and crime plan, which will come out in the autumn. The plan will be unapologetically tough on crime and antisocial behaviour. It will leave no stone unturned when it comes to petty crime and vandalism in our town centres. I will work hard on a range of measures to make it difficult for those who seek to cause issues. And I will continue to push our police for more officers on the streets as we work together to make Rushcliffe safe.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Nottinghamshire Police and Crime Commissioners Have Your Say event for Rushcliffe. Caroline Henry, as I'm sure you'll be aware, was elected your Police and Crime Commissioner in May this year and is currently compiling her Police and Crime Plan for Nottinghamshire. You'll hear more about this shortly, but before we do, I just wanted to say that this event is really all about you at home. This is your opportunity to tell the Commissioner what's important to you and what you'd like to see done to improve policing and tackle crime in Rushcliffe. So please do get involved online. In terms of the session, I'll shortly hand over to Commissioner Henry to give her opening remarks before opening up the chat function on our social media stream. You can submit your comments and questions there and I'll aim to pick them up as we go along. Inspector Heather Sutton, who will talk a little about the operational policing priorities that have been set for Rushcliffe and the process for setting them. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to your Police and Crime Commissioner, Caroline Henry.
Thank you. Good evening everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join me this evening for the Rushcliffe Have Your Say event. This is one of a number of events that I'm running across the county over the coming weeks that will provide me an opportunity for you to tell me about crime and community safety issues that matter most to you and your community. I was elected as Police and Crime Commissioner back in May in a pledge to level up policing across Nottinghamshire, invest in visible frontline policing, be tough on crime and put victims and residents at the heart of our policing priorities. In taking office, I have a duty to set a police and crime plan for Nottinghamshire that will set the direction of policing over the next 4 years. My plan will be based on 3 simple principles: preventing crime and protecting people from harm, improving the police and partnership response to crime and ASB, and supporting victims and communities to be safe and feel safe. So preventing, responding and supporting. First and foremost, I want to prevent crime from happening in the first place. I want to spend more time and resources in dealing with the causes rather than the consequences of crime. I've already invested in a range of crime prevention initiatives that are enabling us to do this, but there's more to do. I'm also looking at investing in custody schemes to help divert more young people from crime, improve referrals and treatments and outcomes for those with substance misuse, and to do more work in schools, particularly to re-engage with vulnerable young people. My second priority is to ensure that we're really effective in our response to crime and the issues that are greatest concern to our communities. And this is where I really need your help. I want to know what are the main crime and community safety issues are in your area. I want to hear about your experience of the police in Nottinghamshire, and I want to know what we can do better. And I can promise you, in that developing my plan, I'll be looking to increase police officers in Nottinghamshire, increase the numbers, to improve how visible and accessible they are in our communities. I'll be working with the police and other partners to ensure that we're making the best use of our tools and powers, and that you see real tangible benefits and improvements in responses to issues of your greatest concern. And my third and final but really important priority is to better support victims and communities to be safe and to feel safe. With some excellent victim support services in Nottinghamshire, particularly those who are supporting those of domestic and sexual violence. But I want them to be even better. I also want to ensure that all residents have the confidence to report crime, safe in the knowledge that action will be taken. I'm looking at a range of options to help achieve this, but closer working relationship with the criminal justice system is absolutely key. I want to ensure my plan helps deliver swifter justice for victims and brings more offenders to account. So, these are my provisional priorities for Nottinghamshire, based on the information that I've received and the conversations I've had with local residents, including Nottinghamshire. But I want to hear your views this evening. I want to know whether you think these are the right priorities for you in Rushcliffe. And I want to hear about the crime and community safety issues that are affecting you here in Rushcliffe. And I can assure you that the feedback you provide today will be used to shape my plan. So I encourage you, please take this opportunity to tell me what you think and what you'd like to see for crime and policing in your area. I'm here to listen.
So thank you to everyone at home that's already submitted some questions. So we've got some pre-submitted questions for you, Commissioner. So the first one is from Penny Gowland, who's asked, do you think it's appropriate to release videos of house raids in West Bridgeford on social media?
Thank you. That's a really good question. It's really important that people feel safe. And by releasing that video, you can see what the police are doing. Operationally, if I could pass across to Paul Gummer. Sorry, Rob Lawton. Wrong event, I apologise.
No, I do genuinely understand your concern, but it is also important that we let people know what we're doing in the area, and that warrant that was on in the media was part of that as well. So it's really, really important that people and the residents of Rushcliffe know actually what we're doing in those areas, so that actually when we look at the fear of crime and how people are feeling, it might be that when you go to sleep at night, you actually know that there are police officers in the area. So for me, it's really important we actually show you and tell you what we're doing as well.
Thank you very much. And that was Inspector Rob Lawton. Sorry for getting your name wrong. Also, I think it's good for the criminals to see that what you're doing and that you're catching them.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
So the next question that we've got here is from Roland Gower, who said that traffic speeds are a major concern to many villages. Community speed watch and camera bans are the main measures which have an impact on drivers. But since the start of the pandemic, they've been unable to conduct a community speed watch. They've not been getting a response or holding reply from the police about when the service will be restarted. And Roland's asked, what action will the Commissioner take to ensure community speed watch is restarted?
Okay, thank you for that question, Roland. Firstly, can I thank any volunteers? We have some amazing volunteers in Nottinghamshire, and those that get involved with Community Speed Watch are just part of that. I'm sorry you've not had a reply from the police. If I pass over to the Inspector, I'm sure he'll get back in touch with you and speak about this.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So the next question that we've got is from Councillor Richard Butler, who is rather a long question, but is asking, was talking about the increasing problem of a craze that only seems to be getting worse, and that is the issue of people who have set up their cars and motorbikes to be unacceptably loud and noisy, in particular the modified exhaust systems that they have, which might seem trivial, but when people are literally jumping with shock and also have their peace ruined, then it really isn't fair on the decent majority, he said. Drivers of these vehicles are invariably driving and riding in an aggressive manner with little or no respect for others.
Thank you. It's a slightly operational question, but if I can add something too, it's really annoying, these really loud exhausts, and I know you can do on the spot fines of £50 or something. Yeah. And you are chasing these people down, so I'll pass across to you.
Yeah, well, aside from that, what we're actually doing is we are linking, a lot of what people in Rushcliffe are telling me about is speeding, but linked to speeding, road safety, is what we call fatal falls, so things like wearing seatbelts, not being on your mobile phone. So it's part of the bigger work we're actually committing to every month now as part of our leisure team. So you'll already seen us over the weekend out in pub-tree areas doing the speeding checks, which is exactly what the community have asked for. So it's part of that bigger picture around road safety, speeding and things like that. So it links into more work that we're doing.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question? So if somebody sees somebody that's really loud exhaust, or they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, if they can safely take a picture and get that to you, or what is helpful? Do they report it? What's the best for you?
I would say for me, on our Notts Police website, you can go into a little section which it says your area. If you put your postcode into that, it'll give you your neighbourhood sergeant and the officers for your area.
Yeah.
I would say you get in touch with one of those, they will get back in touch with you or speak to you at the time and be able to give you some good advice specific to what you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you very much, because it's really annoying.
Yeah, no, understood.
Thank you.
We also have another question from Councillor Richard Butler, and this is about motorbikes that are being ridden and raced on public roads at high speeds, in particular 100 miles per hour. It's no exaggeration to say that many of these riders will be going probably over 100 miles per hour and have no regard for people who live on these roads or other road users.
Okay. I've heard a lot about motorbikes as I've been out and about, and it's not just people on the road. We have a lot of motorcyclists going where they shouldn't be, and perhaps they don't know they shouldn't be going there. Is it okay to pass this across to you, Heather? Because I know you are a motorcyclist, and we do want people to drive carefully and safely.
Yeah. Thank you. So as Rob's already talked about, the speeding operations running in Rushcliffe to combat issues of speeding on public roads, and they will continue on motorbikes or on cars on public roads. But lots of areas suffer from off-road motorbiking and quad biking, causing antisocial behaviour, damaging farms' land, and trespassing on land. That's a symptom of a number of issues. Some of it is done for the riders to have fun, but they're doing it at sites where they aren't allowed to do it, and that causes antisocial behaviour for those who live in the area. We've recently published a list of legal sites where you can go on off-road. As the Commissioner says, I'm a biker myself. I know that the fun and joy that it brings, and people often go out and do it as a family event, but there are legal sites where you can go and off-road and enjoy the facilities with the appropriate insurances and health and safety in place. It's dangerous to the riders to be riding off-road with that in place, and we have attended incidents of accidents and people getting themselves into a right mess off-road, and also the dangers that it puts on other people who are using those locations. We do have an off-road bike team in Nottinghamshire Police. There's 16 trained riders and we have 5 off-road bikes, and that team will deploy to locations where we know are suffering from this issue. Thankfully, we haven't had too many incidents reported in Rushcliffe. If that is an issue of your area, then please report it. You can use the online reporting tool on the Notts Police website, and that will give Inspector Lawton the information he needs to request the off-road team come to his area and deploy on his area. They can stop the off-roaders, take enforcement action against them, educate them, and try and prevent that from being a further issue for you.
Thank you. So please do report if it's happening. Actually, would it be okay just we have a quick talk about when people call 101 and when people should call 999?
Yeah. So when we're thinking about 999, it's more about an emergency. So is this something that's happening now? And it's very difficult to actually give you a specific example, but it's if something's happening now, or somebody's in danger, or somebody might get hurt. So, for example, if there is a fight taking place, that might be the time to phone 999 or other things. 101 is more, it's definitely non-emergency. So if you need to report something where there is no risk to anybody and there's no emergency around it, then you can do that. But likewise, if you want to get hold of, like I previously mentioned, me or one of my team, that's the route then to do it. You'll get through to the control room, who will then advise you on which way is best to get hold of us.
And this is going to be an unusual thing to say as a Police and Crime Commission, because I would rather a lot more people report stuff so we know what's happening. And if that means crime figures go up, I don't mind, because it means people have more confidence in reporting things to us.
So, Commissioner, the next question that we've got is from Councillor Tina Kumbalak, who's asked, how do you intend to get tough on crime in our villages, which was one of your election pledges, and are we going to see increased patrols in rural areas?
Good evening, Tina. We've had this conversation before. You know I'm really passionate about making sure that our rural areas get the policing they need, and you should be seeing more policing in the rural areas already, but I know there's more to do, and we need to build confidence in our rural areas. Chief Inspector Heather Sutton is our lead on rural crime. If I pass over to you, Heather.
Hi, I'm the force lead for rural and wildlife crime. We have beat managers in every rural location who are linked in with that community, and it's their job to identify patterns and trends and respond to them. I'll pass to Inspector Lawton in a minute to talk a bit more about Operation Sahara, which is specifically around thefts in rural locations and some of the proactive work that we've been doing with additional resources in those locations. In the last year, we have trained 25 wildlife crime officers. That will also impact on rural crime as we see rural crime offences being committed to pursue wildlife crime offences. We've also recently released a rural crime app on every officer's mobile phone to make sure that if an officer who doesn't normally work in rural locations does go to your incident, they've got their information literally in their pocket to help them deal with your crime appropriately. Just pass to Rob to talk about Up-Sahara.
Yeah, so as well as Up-Sahara, what I'd encourage you to do is speak to your local neighbourhood officer as well. The website, our police website, which I spoke about before, if you put your postcode into that section, it will tell you who they are. So please speak to them. You will have someone for your area, and they will know your area really well. So if you want to speak to them and get some advice, please do that. In relation to Sahara, we've been putting a lot of effort into the rural areas of Rushcliffe. They are really large, and I understand that. Me personally, I've been trying to get out and see people, and I'm certainly still trying to do that, especially with it being so big. But hopefully over the last week or so, you've seen some of our efforts. It was in the media recently about our operation. That was an operation with our Reacher team, led by our Reacher team, but working with Nottinghamshire, working with Leicestershire Police, working with our operational support department, as well as many other things that we're doing, some of which you may see, some of which you may not see. So for example, we have our operational support officers and other response officers throughout the night that will be doing those patrols. You might just not see them, but they are there.
Thank you very much. So we are stepping up what we're doing for rural crime. There's more to do. Watch this space, because if I can get the money right, there's more. When I do my budget for my police and crime plan, it's something I really want to go big on. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you'd like to see to tackle rural crime in your area. Please fill my survey in. Feedback to me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioner. So the next question we've got is from Gemma Simus, who's asked what is being done in Lady Bay to protect bike theft from sheds and antisocial behaviour on the hook.
Okay. Slightly operational, but can I just mention bike thefts, because I do fund bike marking, and I would encourage everybody to get their bike marked. You do regular sessions across the county, but those specific things. May I pass across to you, please, Inspector?
On that, we have been doing a lot of bike marking events, but we've also been doing a lot of work. So we are well aware as part of our neighbourhood team, and we discuss things like this quite often. And if we see any increases, we will respond to them really quickly. And without giving the specific details, we've done a lot of work recently which resulted in us arresting certain people and offenders. So we do see it, we respond to it, and we have been doing a lot recently.
Thank you. Because it's a real pain when people lose the bike. You know, people use it to get to work, for fun, and we need to be all over that. Thank you.
And importantly, Commissioner, it's people telling us again, so please let us know.
Thank you. I hope you heard that loud and clear. Report. We need to know what's happening. If in doubt, make a call, 101. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've got another question from Steve Hanson, who's asked why are so many Nottinghamshire police officers taking their ID numbers off and bashing people's doors in without good reason?
Now, not that I'm biased, but I actually think we have the best police force in the country, Nottinghamshire, and I'd be really surprised to hear they're bashing people's doors in with no good reason. But operationally, could you just talk about ID numbers? Thank you.
So, as an inspector, I will always monitor whether people wear their epaulets. They may not always have them showing there. There might be other areas that you might see them on their vests where they're working, or their stab vests, so they may not always necessarily be in full view. You might have to see them on the front. But we will watch it, and the expectation is that people and officers will wear their identification numbers. That's whether we're working in a neighbourhood area like Rushcliffe or football or other things. The expectation is that officers will wear identification.
Thank you. And and report it if you don't think that's happening. But I've got a lot of faith in our police in Nottingham that they wouldn't be bashing the door unless there's a really good reason for it. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a question from JC, who's asked, what are the police doing about privately owned e-scooters driven illegally and dangerously on public land?
Okay, who was that question?
JC.
Yeah, JC. We're not the first person to ask this, JC. And in Nottinghamshire, there are places you can drive a scooter if it's one of the government schemes, but it is complex. So if I just pass across.
Yeah, those schemes, they're not in Rushcliffe at the moment, so it is a challenge around e-scooters, because there's law around e-scooters, the difference between an e-scooter and a electric bike. It can be quite challenging, so we are looking at, as well as enforcing where we can, as well as giving some guidance around actually the law and the legislation, because an e-scooter does come under road traffic law, so the same rules will apply.
Yeah, and all about keeping Nottinghamshire safe, and some people aren't keeping themselves safe if they're doing something dangerous on a scooter, so that does need following up. Okay.
And we've got another question for what is being done.
Thank you. I think this is a little bit going back before to the quad bike and people having fun but not always doing it where they should be doing it. Can I pass across if that's okay?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, Rushcliffe hasn't been highlighted as a hotspot concern area for off-roading ASB. So if that is happening, it does need reporting to us. The online reporting form is fine. You can report on that. It's quite quick to do. That will come through Rob, and then Rob can bid for the off-road bike team, and we can deploy them to the right place at the right time. In addition to that, we can deliver education sessions with our off-road team, which we've been doing recently, to build relations, share those messages about legal off-roading, and get into the places where it's an issue, but that really needs passing through to us so we can target those resources. So keep reporting it to us, please.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for the questions that you've submitted so far and the issues that you've raised. We're now going to take a short break from the questions to pass over to Inspector Rob Lawton, who's going to explain the neighbourhood policing priorities for Rushcliffe and the process for setting those. So, Rob.
Yeah, so everything we've spoken about and more will all go into what I would consider ready for our meetings around our priorities. Each blog I put out now, I put the priorities, the local priorities to Rushcliffe in that blog, which will be on our intranet page, just so that everybody understands and knows what they are, because that's a bit of feedback I've had. But the local priorities for us, they're set for 3 months, and they're currently set up until this month, so they're set up until September. So in October we'll reset them, and that'll be for another 3 months. At the minute they are Officer Hara, which is rural crime. It's Ed Walton and Cotton Grave antisocial behaviour. So they're the local priorities that we will concentrate on. Now that's not to say that we won't be looking at things that happen or are brought to my attention. We have meetings all the time around different things that are happening. But there are overarching local priorities. But I just wanted you to know that within that we will respond to many things that are happening daily. It's all done through partnership. So I do decide, or I do have a look at what those priorities would be, but that's done in complete partnership with other people and listening to yourselves and the issues that have been raised. And that's why it's important that you do report things and let us know what the priorities are for you, what the issues are for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got some other questions that have been coming in. So Claire from Hawksworth has asked, where I live there have been a lot of burglaries recently and people are worried. What is being done to stop more of them from happening?
I'm really sorry to hear there's been some burglaries. I know how devastating that is. If I go back to my 3 priorities of preventing, responding and supporting, I'm really keen that we work with partners, and We have messages going out to how you stay safe. I mean, a lot of burglaries do happen because people have left the windows open or the doors unlocked. That isn't always the case, but please do think of home security, especially on summer months. People will leave the doors open. Responding, the police now have a dedicated burglary team across the county, and they've been really successful catching offenders. However, there's more to be done, so responding to burglary will be a big focus in my upcoming police and crime plan. And supporting, I want to ensure that victims have the best experience, and with the police and with the criminal justice system. And I know how devastating it can be if you've been burgled. So as part of my plan, I'm going to be investing more into victim services and looking for assurances that the criminal justice system is really operating in the interest of those that have been burgled. And at the moment, we don't have a specific Nottinghamshire Criminal Justice Board. We have a regional Criminal Justice Board. And I'm looking to get my knees under the table a bit more and hold the Criminal Justice Board feet to the fire a bit here, because I think there's more to be done. Inspector Lawton, if you could give a bit of an operational response about specific issues in Ruddington. I know we spoke about East Leak when I visited you last week.
Yeah, so again, burglary is something that I constantly monitor with the rest of my neighbourhood team and my sergeants. But now we mentioned specifically Ruddington and East Leak. There have been two specific areas that I've been made aware of and I've been monitoring. Take Ruddington as an example. I know there was a slight increase in burglaries recently over a night or so's period. What we did to respond to that, we asked for overnight resources. We had resources specifically at those times. We had resources come into the area from our operational support department. Yeah. But importantly around that, we tried to reduce the fear of the crime as well. Yeah. So we sent our Reacher team out and my Reacher team out to speak to some of the residents that had been affected, so that they were not only, they knew that when they went to bed at night, there were officers that were keeping them safe in and around that area, because that's really important, because they could worry if they weren't. So we did do that, same in East Leak.
Thank you.
And other areas.
Yeah, thank you. And also, could we just speak quickly about using technology as well? I mean, I know when we had our chat last week, we spoke about ANPR, we spoke about CCTV and using drones and how we can be really on the front foot.
Yeah, so the things you've mentioned there, Commissioner, so we do have things like drones nowadays, so if something is happening there and then, going back to phoning 999, please do, because we can get officers to the area. We have other support with dog officers, we have operator support, we have response officers in your area. I know I'm from the Neighbour policing team, but we have 24/7 response officers on as well. They will have things like drones, they will have ANPR, and they will be able to do the initial inquiries around CCTV, as well as the long stuff from the burglary team. So we do have technology.
Yeah. ANPR is automatic number plate recognition, and I'd love to really build a ring of steel around Nottinghamshire to make as much ANPR. We've got cars with the ANPR in as well now, haven't we? Yeah. So it's a very helpful tool in our arsenal to getting those criminals.
We've had another question in from Shamila, who's asked about drug dealing, specifically that there is a lot of drug dealing where she lives and the police don't seem to do anything.
Okay. I'm sorry you feel that the police don't seem to do anything. They should be doing some things, and I know they are doing things in different areas, but drugs are a real issue in our society. I think we all need to be having real conversations about how it is not acceptable to take drugs, and if people knew the harm that's been caused in getting those drugs to our county, and the vulnerable people that have been hurt and damaged and hurt, how some of those drugs have got here in the first place as well, where they've been stuffed and all the rest of it, and what they contain. I'm sorry, that's a bit graphic, but actually people just shouldn't be touching them. We need to have more conversations about preventing people getting involved with drugs in the first place, and I'm talking about getting in early. I know we do work in schools, but we need to be doing work in primary schools too. I want to invest in drug treatment services as well, to ensure that everybody who wants to get help to get off drugs can do. That's the preventing bit. Responding, I'm absolutely committed to more drug enforcement operations, and if we could talk about Operation Reacher, because I know you have been busy with the Operation Reacher, targeting the drug dealers and reducing the impact in our communities, and supporting. We just need to make sure that if it's affecting you, you report it and we support you. But if we talk about some of the operational stuff, not too detailed, because we need to be chopping the head off that snake.
Yeah, I think it's to reassure you that actually my operational policing team and the neighbourhood policing team are doing a lot of work. It's really important that you let us know if you've got any information on that, but please be reassured that we are always and constantly doing a lot of work.
Yeah, and if you see something that just doesn't look right, if I could, they call it cuckooing or a trap house. If we could just tell people what to look out for, if they see something that doesn't look right, what should they be reporting?
I think just report it in. There's not going to be a right or wrong. If you see something that you think suspicious, then ring us. Let us know about it, and then we will have a look at that. So I'd rather somebody ring in and tell us than we're worried about not doing. So please let us know.
Yeah, and the same with the county lines and I call it county lines. People say going OT or going out of town, but it's not just. It's criminals. They like to be one step ahead of us, and what they're doing at the moment, they're looking for clean skins, people they think who wouldn't be stopped by the police. And actually, there's so much of it about. We all need to be looking out for stuff that doesn't look right and reporting it. Could we just talk a little bit about county lines and what people should be looking out for when things don't look right?
Yeah, and I think again, it's just letting us know if you can see anybody who you think you're worried about, changes of behaviour, somebody who might be vulnerable. Then again, ask us for advice. You may be clear about what you're seeing, you might be slightly unclear about what you're seeing, but the best advice I can give you is speak to local neighbourhood officer, ring in 101 and get some advice and just see and run it by us and see what you've got.
Thank you very much, Inspector.
If I can just add as well, understand that some people don't want to report to the police because of their fears. Crime Stoppers is completely anonymous. We can't access who has provided that information. They've got a telephone line, but they've also got an online reporting tool where you can report any intelligence or information or concerns. Rob's just mentioned some of those signals and signs that might indicate somebody's being involved in county lines. If that can come through to us, and then we can make that assessment and perhaps put the pieces of the jigsaw together. There's also a link to Fearless on Crime Stoppers, which is a really good website for younger people, loads of information on there, and there's also Talk to Frank as well, which is another website that gives information about how to have conversations and ask some of the questions that people kind of don't publicly want to ask about drugs. So if you're a parent and you're concerned about your child, then have a look at those websites to try and frame some of those conversations with your children. And if you're a young person that wants to keep yourself better informed, then you can go online, have a look and report things without it being traceable.
Thank you. And if I could just add to that, I'm actually the chairman of the Violence Reduction Board for the City of Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. And one of the things that we've just started is a new Stop Violence campaign, because unfortunately we know with drugs comes a lot of violence. So if you look at a website called #NG. Thank you.
Commissioner, you've had another question come in about uplift. So namely, are you seeing the benefit of uplift officers in Rushcliffe?
Yes, there are more officers in Rushcliffe. I committed to making sure there was more officers, and we're over the 100 that I committed to this year. But when we're doing really well on the recruitment, I don't know if you want. We don't give specific numbers for specific areas, but if you just talk about the team you've got, that'd be really helpful. Yeah,
you'll have seen my team hopefully on the website and out and about. We've also recently welcomed a couple of officers that are new to the team. One is PC Holden, who will be in the centre of West Bridgeford to helping around there, and he's already been out on social media doing the walkabout, so you've hopefully seen him. And PC Kai Kemish, who's now Ruddington, so he's only just started, but again he is now in your area, so I've got a couple of new officers that we welcome.
Thank you. And it's not just the officers you're seeing, it's all the hidden stuff that you're doing as well. It's not always just officers on the beat. There's officers doing stuff which you don't know they're doing, all the cybercrime things. You have more police, but we always want more.
Fantastic. We've had a question come in about domestic abuse and what more is being done with regards to domestic abuse.
Yeah. As I've been going around as Police and Crime Commissioner, I've actually been quite shocked at how many calls are coming in for domestic abuse. And even then, I think we're just scratching the surface. I think there's a lot more out there, and I would like to again encourage anybody who is in a situation where they need help, to give us a call, or they think they know somebody who needs help. Have those conversations about domestic abuse, whether it's violence or coercive control. Please report it, and be assured you will be really listened to by Nottinghamshire Police. Through the Ministry of Justice, I've actually got more money to support victims of domestic violence and sexual violence as they go through the court system as well. Inspector, if I could just pass over to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What you said there, Commissioner. We have specialist departments who are amazing at what they do. So if a domestic incident is reported to us, we do have specialist departments that will look into that and support anybody that does report to us.
Thank you.
Fantastic. We've had a question come in from Antonia about fly tipping and what is being done in Rushcliffe with regards to fly tipping.
Yeah, thank you. I have got a real thing about litter. I don't like anything being dropped, but fly tipping is such a pain, and it costs so much money to sort out. Now, it's a tricky one because it's a joint responsibility, and the local authority have to step up here as well with fly tipping. If you could talk about a specific how it's worked in Rushcliffe.
Yeah, well, it is that, but it links again to our sort of road safety and the operations we're doing on the roads of Rushcliffe. So it's all around sort of like road safety, people committing offences. There may be links out there, so the work we're doing in and around the roads will always help.
Yeah, and those ANPR cameras are really helpful for catching you. We will be looking for you if you even think about dumping something in Rushcliffe, because it costs us all money to sort it out. And also, if you see on Facebook somebody offers to take a mattress away for 20 quid, don't even think about it. You need to make sure when if you've got something that needs to be taken away, that it's done through a registered person. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've had a question come in from Tina about how you're working across borders with other forces.
Yes, crime knows no barriers, and we do. I'm involved with MSU. We work for the organised crime. It's sharing intelligence and sharing resources when needed. We've got a really good relationship with our neighbouring forces, and we're very competitive, and Nottinghamshire are the best. If you want to give a specific.
Yeah, just to add specifically to rural crime. So I'm the chair for the regional enforcement group. So it's my job to bring all the partners and the neighbouring forces together, look at how we can work together in partnership, identify trends, threats, and run operations, which we've done a number of across borders. Inspector Lawton's already mentioned working with Leicestershire Police on Sahara. We've had a number of fishing operations in the north of the county, but just demonstrating how we will come together with partners and neighbouring forces to run operations and share that information. We also have the similar intelligence and crime sharing software, so we can see other forces' crimes and intelligence reports and compare that with those with our own. And then just back to burglary as well, our proactive burglary team will work very closely and speak to on a daily basis with the burglary teams and neighbouring forces to make sure that we're sharing that information.
Another way that we share is we've got East Midlands Cyber Resilience Centre. Do look it up. There's some free tools on there to keep yourself safe online.
Thank you. So we've also had a question about pet theft and what's being done here in Nottinghamshire to combat against pet theft and the rise.
Yeah, we do have a lead in Nottinghamshire. Is it Chief Inspector Amy Starr-Jones? We have really looked into this, and I know we all love our pets. I've got a dog called Poppy. She is part of the family. If anything happened to her, I'd be absolutely devastated. But there's a little bit of myth going off with how much pet theft is happening. And if I just pass over, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, there's not at all. We do have the force lead, which is the chief inspector. Again, report us any concerns, or if you've just heard anything, it's okay to speak to your local officer about that, to ask the question about what is that like in our area. And if there is a bit of a fear of that happening, they can allay some of those fears and actually give you the truth around some of those pictures. because it is clearly very, very, very low. But again, if you want to speak to us, please do.
Yeah. I was actually quite interested because I did want to do a bit of a deep dive on the figures on pet theft, because a lot of people are really concerned about it. But when I looked at the numbers, they hadn't changed massively over the last few years. And I know a lot more people own dogs now, so you'd expect it to be bigger, but it wasn't a massive difference. And also, a lot of the people that had reported a pet theft, it was almost like a domestic fallout. It was a couple, and they both wanted the dog. They'd split up, so one person reported the dog was stolen.
It is very, very rare where it happen outside. And obviously, you want to look after your pets. There's things you can do to keep them safe, but it is very, very rare. But again, if anybody is concerned or worried about it, then please get in touch. Whoever's answered the question, we can put you in touch with the neighbourhood officer. Someone could come and see you and talk about that if that's...
Yeah, and also please make sure your dog's chipped as well. Yeah.
Bells against fraud online.
Thank you. I've already mentioned East Midlands Cyber Resilience Centre. There's some free tools on there. The best thing you can do is really lock down your password. I know it's really simple, but there's a lot more to do than that, but make sure you've got a really, really secure password and two-factor authentication. If I could pass across to you for a little bit more advice.
Again, really, really big, really difficult and often very confusing for people. I understand that, I can get confused by it, but the password is big. I'm no expert on it. We departments that will be significant experts around this, but again, if it's around protecting yourself, then you can ask us. There is the internet where you can get some advice, callers, cold callers, the text that we get through on a phone or emails. Be wary of some of those that come through that you're a little bit suspicious of. They can be really, really authentic looking, so just being really, really mindful.
Yeah, and Action Fraud have got advice as well, haven't they?
Fantastic.
Our cybercrime team do a lot of stories and information videos on Facebook and Instagram. So the key for cybercrime is keeping yourself informed. So if you add us on Facebook and Instagram at Notts Police, every week there's something on there. There is a crime prevention page on the Notts Police website, and the key is to keep yourself informed. Just on the back of that is cold callers. So if you have a neighbour that's perhaps a little bit vulnerable, then we really encourage you to kind of take responsibility for keeping them safe. There's something called Nominate, Neighbour scheme, again on the Notts Police website, and that just prevents the vulnerable person from feeling like they have to be rude at the door and not answering it or telling them to go away. And basically they just have a sign up asking any cold callers to go and visit their nominated neighbour, and then that person can take responsibility for, checking whether they are a legitimate caller or not. And that's something that we've seen that's really effective. We know that there's great community spirit out there, so if people want to do something to help, that Nominate a Neighbour scheme is a really key way, and that will help with the cold calling and also any kind of access for people to identify who might be vulnerable to scams.
That's why I love having these events, because I always learn something new. Thank you. I'd not heard about Nominate a Neighbour scheme, and that's a fantastic idea. And I do think following COVID, we have really pulled together as a community, and we do look out for each other. So please do think about being a nominated neighbour.
So we're just coming to the final couple of questions. Just like to remind everyone, if you do have a question for the Commissioner or for anybody here, then please do submit your questions via the social media live stream. So the final question that we've got is about what to do if you smell weed in your area, what you should do.
Okay. Not acceptable, report it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So if we don't have any more questions, Commissioner, I don't know if you want to go to your closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much for watching this evening. It's given me real food for thought. I've learned something new as well, which is always helpful. And I hope you will see that these questions that you've asked tonight and what's important to you will have an impact on my final police and crime plan as I come to publish it this autumn. The plan will not only set the policing priorities, but also details of the resources that I'll make available to the Chief Constable on how to deliver them. I'll hold the Chief to account for delivering the plan and the grants I'll be making available to community groups to help deliver priorities for the plan. If I just say a little shout out, tomorrow is your last day to put a bid in for a Make Not Safe grant. There's information of that on my website. In the meantime, I'm still listening. Please contact me directly if you have something you'd wish you'd raised today, or if you have any further questions or information for me. So once again, thank you very much for your time, and I really look forward to working with you to make Nottinghamshire, and especially Rushcliffe, safe.